Have you ever felt just stuck, caught in the middle of a shouting match, totally exhausted by how divided everything feels? Well, if that sounds familiar, this one's for you. We're going to break down a really powerful way to think about conflict, based on the work of Robert Gould. And the key is to stop looking at the two sides and start paying attention to the space between us.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. This probably looks pretty familiar, right? I mean, from politics to online comment sections, we are trained to see the world like this. It's all black and white. You're either a winner or you're a loser. You're right and they're wrong. Heck, you're sane and they have to be completely insane to think what they think. It's a mental shortcut, sure, but it leaves zero room for, reality.
And this is the question that changes everything. What if the real action, the actual progress, the thing that makes us human, what if all of that happens in the vast, messy, unexplored territory that exists between those two extremes we're always staring at?
To really get why that space is so crucial, we've got to first understand the trap that keeps us stuck at the poles. So let's start with part one, the polarization trap.
You see, this us versus them mindset, it's more than just a bad habit. It's a trap. It forces you to treat your identity like it's a fortress under siege. And think about it, when you're defending a fortress, are you curious? Are you learning? No way. You're just trying to win the battle. You're not trying to understand the landscape, and you're definitely not trying to understand the person on the other side.
So how do we break out of that fortress and actually start exploring? Well, our source material here offers a pretty brilliant way to shift our whole perspective. Let's dig into how we can navigate that space between. What I love about this definition is how it just reframes the entire goal. The space between isn't some empty no man's land. No, it's a rich, complex landscape. It's full of hidden paths, different points of view, and common ground you would never, ever see from the top of your fortress walls. It's a place to be explored, not a battlefield to be won.
And that's the absolute game changer. The goal isn't to win anymore. The goal is to navigate. Simple as that. But, you can't just wander into a new landscape without the right tools. So, let's open up this Navigator's Toolkit and see what we've got.
All right, tool number one is a beautifully simple idea that just shatters those false choices we saw at the beginning. It's called the continuum.
So let's picture a spectrum. On one absolute end, you have someone who is 100% driven by morality. And on the other far end, you have someone who is 100% driven by material success. Now, be honest, where do most people you know actually live? Are any of them really camping out at those absolute extremes?
Of course not. The reality is much more like this. We are not fixed dots on a line. We're constantly moving along this spectrum. Maybe at work, you're leaning more toward the success end to hit a big deadline. But then when you're home with your family, you might be way over on the morality side, teaching your kids about values. We wander. It all depends on the context.
And this quote from our source, Robert Gould, just nails it. The simple act of drawing a line between two poles and seeing it as a continuum, it just dissolves that black and white thinking. It shows us that the space between is where pretty much everybody is, and it gives us a much better map for finding each other.
Okay, on to the second tool in our kit. This one helps us with a really common mistake we all make, confusing our ideas about the world with the world itself. This is the difference between the map and the territory.
So think of it this way. The map is like the summary, the headline. It's our labels, our stereotypes, our simple beliefs. It's easy to read. But the territory, well, that's reality. It's specific, it's messy, it's full of detail and context and contradictions. The biggest mistake we make in any conflict is when we argue about our simple maps instead of exploring the real territory.
The source tells this fantastic little story. Someone had a brand new, beautifully drawn map of a forest. Looked perfect. But when they showed it to the old camp host, who'd lived there for decades, he just shook his head. He's like, nope, that road washed out years ago, and you're missing a creek right here. You see? The map was a clean, simple theory. The camp host's direct experience, that was the messy, true territory.
And here's why that matters so much. The labels we stick on people, conservative, liberal, activist, whatever it is, those are just maps. They're simple little abstractions. If you really want to understand another person, you have to be willing to put down your map and have the courage to go explore the complicated, unpredictable, and usually fascinating territory of their actual life.
All right, now for the last piece of the puzzle, and this might be the most important one. Let's take these tools we've been talking about and turn them inward. How do they help us navigate the most complex territory of all, ourselves?
So just take a second with this. When you think about who you are, what's the image that comes to mind?
Is it a single, solid fortress with walls you have to defend all the time? Or is it more like a landscape with different regions, changing seasons, and new paths you haven't even walked yet?
Our source actually gives this a name, a hybridized identity. It's this really freeing idea that you aren't just one thing. You're a collection of many things. You're a professional, sure, but you're also a parent, a fan of a certain band, a person who loves to cook, and these different parts of you don't cancel each other out. They actually make each other rich.
Now check this out. The author, Robert Gould, really lives this. In a world that screams at you to pick a team, he just refuses. He has friends all across the political spectrum, and he defines himself not by a simple team jersey, but by a complex set of values. That is a pretty revolutionary act in today's world.
And here's the beautiful conclusion to all this. You are already a hybrid. We all are. We all contain these different, sometimes contradictory parts. And realizing this isn't a sign of weakness or confusion. It's your greatest strength. It's the source of empathy that lets you see the complex territory in other people, because you've already started exploring it in yourself.
Which leaves us with this final kind of mind-bending thought to take with us. The next time you're in a tough conversation, maybe you're not actually two separate minds trying to cross some impossible divide. Maybe you're both just different parts of one single human mind trying to work out its own internal differences. Something to think about, right?